Halo has finally gone beyond the Xbox and is now a TV series streaming on Paramount+. Oh, and I got thoughts, guys. My name is Ravel, and this is a Geek Out of Place. Let's review Halo Episode 1, Contact. In this first episode, Master Chief and his Silver team stop a Covenant attack on a colony planet called Madrigal. It's clear that these outer colonies have hatred towards the UNSC, the military branch that oversees Chief and the other Spartans. The young woman, the only survivor, gets stuck with Master Chief. But before leaving, Chief and his Silver team discover that the Covenant were digging in search of some artifact. This artifact just might be more important than anyone could possibly imagine. We also get introduced to some other tensions happening in this series. Dr. Halsey is also butting heads with Admiral Parangoski. It seems that UNSC top brass is suspicious of what Halsey is doing with her Spartans, as well as the other shady projects she has going on. A young Dr. Miranda Keyes has an uneasy relationship with her father, Captain Jacob Keyes. And we are also introduced to a yet-to-be-named human woman living with the Covenant. What plans does the Covenant leader, Prophet of Mercy, have with her and her connection to humanity? Right off the bat, guys, let me just say that I am a huge Halo fan. I've been playing the game since they first came out back in 2001. And I, as much as the next gamer, have always wanted to see Halo on the big screen. I remember in high school reading headlines that there were talks of a movie being made. Never came to be. We got this, though. We got this. And again, guys, I got thoughts. I will do my best not to spoil any major plot revelations until after I give my recommendation at the end of the episode. I'll let you guys know. And I also want to say that I will be keeping in mind that this is an adaptation. I might here and there point out some differences of the source material, but I really want to take this show on its own terms, and I don't want to judge the show for what it isn't. So what's good about the show? Well, frankly, that first action scene was the highlight for me. It's literally, it starts with a bang and shows just how brutal the Covenant is to unprepared colonists. So much of my praise comes from this opening section. It's really nice seeing real physical cars being thrown around, real weapons being used that are clearly influenced by older games. Even beyond that, the CG effects and the digital matte paintings are all integrated so well to make the game's universe feel real and tactile, and I love it. I think they blew it out of the water. You can see a lot of money is thrown at the screen, and for the most part, it's worth every penny. On that same note, the Spartan designs, the performances in the Mjolnir armor, I thought was gonna look real janky. Whatever movie magic is going on behind the scenes to make the Spartans look badass, they nailed it too. Whether it's really good costume design, really just good stunt performances, or even like CG enhancements, or maybe even some combination of the three. If this show needed to get one thing right, they needed to get the Spartans right, and they did. But really, the star of the show is the production design. I don't have a bad thing to say about Pablo Schreiber as Master Chief. His performance is stiff, a little awkward, but I think that's actually true to the character of Master Chief. He even cracks a little joke, which is endearing. There weren't big old long exposition talks of, as you know, the Covenant is the alien race that kills people. For most of the writing, they do respect the audience enough to show them what's going on and expect them to fill in the gaps. And yes, as a fan, there is some fan service. It's really fun to see and hear some of those sound effects, those sound cues that have been ingrained in me for the past 20 years. Now, to a point, some of it did take me out of the immersion a little bit, but I'm willing to give them a pass. If those little sound cues just temporarily took me out, some of the CG just really made me cringe a little bit. Up close, like when standing still, the Covenant alien designs look really good. They're not afraid to show that, and they have the balls to do it, and I respect that, but When they're moving, some of the elites jumping on cars, even Master Chief, the CG just looks a little rubbery. That kind of took me out of it. The show is smart enough to cut away from those iffy effects and move on to real people or real things. Some of the performances leave a little bit to be desired. Not enough for me to call them bad actors, but I think my biggest complaints have to do with the writing. And I know I just applauded the writing earlier, but when I mentioned the highlight is that opening action sequence, when they start introducing new plot points and new tensions, I feel like the show is spinning too many plates that one episode can't really handle. One big standout example for me, the scene introducing the human traitor working with the Covenant. As told to us, she did have a hand in what the Covenant was doing on Madrigal, but that was about it. It's really just to show that she's under pressure by the leaders of the Covenant because she's a human, and it really didn't tie into the rest of the episode. I'm not left wondering who is she because I care about the intrigue, I'm left wondering who is she because it never comes back. Frankly, I think that scene could have just been cut. The show runs almost a full hour. Yeah, that scene could have easily been put somewhere else. I think a lot of rebalancing of the scenes would have helped the pacing of this episode. Okay, so the one big tension that's really standing out to me as dragging this whole thing down is UNSC Admiral Perengoski. She represents the suspicion and issues the broader UNSC has with whatever the hell Dr. Halsey is doing. And that whole tension just seems underbaked. We're supposed to take it at face value that she's under the knife, but I'm left wondering why. The UNSC needs the Spartans to fight the Covenant war. It's clearly revealed later in character details that she doesn't have a problem undermining commands, but that character choice doesn't really reinforce the problem that the Admiral has with her. So, If it's going to get filled out in later episodes, I wish they had set it up better, I guess is all I'm saying. Besides the weird pacing, besides the downhill momentum, I feel like the show takes itself way too seriously. There is an inherent goofiness in the video games.
Sergeant, thanks for the tank. He never gets me anything.
Oh, I know what the ladies like.
Greetings!
There is a definite self-awareness that is balanced out by some of the bigger gravitas. There's some charm, there's some personality, but mostly it very much takes itself very seriously and expects the audience to take that at face value when there should be some heart, there should be some levity. And I think that is where the show really stumbles. It's all spectacle and drama. And I think that's a lesson that 343 Industries had to learn the hard way, going from Halo 5, which was over the top, bombastic, but mostly very serious. That had one of the stupidest plots in any Halo game. So when it came to making Halo Infinite, they tried to figure out what worked in the older games, in the Bungie games. And I think one lesson they learned was put some personality, put some self-awareness back into Halo. And that is a lesson that this show hasn't learned. Overall, I am pretty positive about the show, way more positive than I thought I'd be. To be fair, I set my expectations way low. If the bar was ankle high, I expected the show to trip over it. But luckily, I can say that the show gingerly stepped over it. That's still very low bar. I'm really hoping that the show can regain some of the momentum it lost for me. If the balance is going to be more focused on politics and character tension while leaving action stuff to the wayside, which is where I think the show shines, it might lose me. Would I recommend it? Yes, but I'm urging you to come at it with an open mind, especially if you're a fan. If you're not a fan, now that's a harder sell. I think this could easily be written off as another dumb space action show. The show is trying way harder to be more than just that. I would still recommend this show. Luckily, the good barely outweighs the bad. I think what's lost in the middle of it all is that humanity, which is holding it back. It might be a fun show. It might look like Halo, but I don't know if it'll ever be a great show. If you're a fan of Halo, turn off your brain and enjoy the ride. If you're not a fan of Halo, if you like dumb action sci-fi, you might find something to like out of this show. But those are my thoughts, guys. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. If you want to see more of these reviews, let me know. Subscribe. I plan on reviewing this show not every week, but every other week. So let's talk about some spoilers, okay guys? I'm talking big spoilers now, but these are mostly just notes. If you don't want to be spoiled on the big plot here, go watch the show, come back. If you don't care, let's go. The big story, right? Big story here is that what Master Chief discovered in the cave was obviously some Forerunner tech. You know the games, you know what this is. Kinda, sort of, maybe. Humanity has an ancient connection to this Forerunner tech, which is apparently unlocking memories in Master Chief's brain, undoing his programming when he became a Spartan. And that is partly what motivates him to go rogue. Okay, cool, I'm on board with that. I guess my problem with it is it ends up being like a Deus Ex Machina device. It ends up doing everything that Master Chief needed to save his bacon and escape. Well, that's just bad writing, boys. But it worked. Okay, fine. The other thing that's kind of confusing me, now Dr. Catherine Halsey does mention the Cortana project.
Is a risk that cannot be taken.
I agree completely, which is precisely why the Cortana system...
She name drops that after we're introduced to a cloned body in a pod? What the fuck? So, in the games, Cortana is an AI based off of Halsey's personality, her brain. She is essentially a virtual clone. But she's not a literal clone, she's still a digital AI. What and why? I guess we'll find out, huh? I guess a couple nitpicks. The elites guarding the Prophet aren't wearing the right armor. What the hell? That's the coolest fucking armor in the world. I think this is supposed to be a Mass Effect reference? I guess the last big thing I wanted to talk about, and I wonder how many gamers are gonna lose their shit over this. Master Chief takes his helmet off. We knew that was coming before the show came out. I'm okay with it enough. Even though he is a Master Chief, he is not the Master Chief. We're never gonna see that Master Chief's face. He only did once, and that was just the eyes. That's all we'll get. So showing it off here is fine. Why did they do it? I don't really know. Narratively, it's to get Quan to trust him. She is suspicious of him. Master Chief takes off his helmet to show that he is a person underneath that armor, and that they need to work together to both survive. Great, fair. I was really hoping that they would Mandalorian it. He'd let his acting and his physical performance carry it, and only in certain dire situations take that helmet off. Meh, they didn't do that. Okay, first episode we see him, and he just looks like Pablo. Good looking man. Did Master Chief's helmet need to come off? It was justified. Could it have been handled better? Sure. I guess my concern is if it's gonna overstay its welcome. Is he gonna keep the helmet off, or is he gonna keep it on most of the time? Let me know in the comments what you think of the show down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you want to hear me really nitpick, really go to town, I can. I might make it an exclusive video. We'll find out. If you subscribe, you get to watch my other shows on this channel. Mostly Let's Plays and First Looks. I have been Ravel. This has been a Geek Out of Place. See you later.